I like old cookbooks. I've got another one here, and the recipe's gluten-free. So we know that I love old cookbooks. And I've got one from 1934. This is the Boston Cooking School Cookbook by Fannie Merritt Farmer. Those of you in America who have had some cookbooks in the past know who Fannie Farmer is. So I got through it and I was reading through it and I was looking for another gluten-free cookie recipe. And I see this for Scottish Fancies. I'm looking at the ingredients list. Eggs, sugar, butter, rolled oats. I like old-fashioned for this. Salt and vanilla. If you use certified gluten-free oats, like this is gluten-free. So let's make a batch. Like with every recipe, every baking recipe you do, you've got to make sure that all your stuff is ready to go before you need it. Okay? That's called mise en place. So, oven on 325. I've got a big bowl. Big bowl. I need a whisk. And a spatula. I'll need a teaspoon. 1 teaspoon. Yeah, I know this isn't my usual measuring device, but it'll be okay this time. I'll survive. And then I have all my ingredients lined up. We started off with an egg, sugar. We've got salt, melted butter, vanilla, and our oats, which I have toasted off. 10-15 minutes in a 350-degree oven. Just keep stirring them and shaking them. Make sure that they don't get over caramelized, shall we say. So let's start this off. Crack open your egg. Add your sugar. It says to beat the egg first, but that's not going to make too much of a difference because you want to incorporate the sugar in with the egg quite a bit. So that extra step of beating the egg really isn't going to do too much more for it. So let's add in our other ingredients. We've got our melted butter. It calls for 1 egg, half a cup of sugar, 2/3 of a tablespoon of melted butter. Well, how much is that? I've never seen a 2/3 of a tablespoon measuring spoon. But I have seen a 1/3, which is a teaspoon. There are 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon, so this is 2 teaspoons. Let's get our salt in. Just a pinch. A little bit of vanilla. I think it called for like 1/4 of a teaspoon. And I like using the good stuff. This is a local product. So we'll get this stirred in. Now, let's stir in our oats. And I'm going to switch to the spatula. The deviation I'm going to make is add some more flavor to it. This is going to taste good the way it is. So, but we can add a little bit more spice. We'll start off with nutmeg. Always buy this. Get yourself a rasp style grater and just grate it right in. I found out a long time ago, back before I turned gray, that buy the good stuff and you'll end up using less because What you want is the flavor of the good stuff, and the flavor is much more intense in this than it is in those cans of pre-ground pseudo nutmeg. So always buy the fresh. So that's maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon. And I've got 1 star anise pod that I ground up nice and fragrant. I ground this up just before filming. 1 pod goes in. Now let's stir this all up. So one of the other tricks I found also, let this sit for a little bit. Let the oats hydrate a bit. Only takes a few minutes. Now always when you bake, you want to prep your pan first. You want to turn your oven on, you want to get your mise en place out. We talked about this just a few seconds ago. So I've got sheet pan lined with silicone impregnated mat. These things are great. We talked about them last video. They're a good thing to have. So it says to use a teaspoon and measure these out. And it says to put them about 1.5 inches apart. Do that. I'm not going to go more than, I'm going to go about 6 on this pan because they're going to spread out quite a bit. Now it also says to flatten them out with a wet fork, but this is already dirty, so I'm just going to use the back of this spoon. Okay, here we go. 6, 1 sheet pan. These are going to spread out, so be careful for that. These are going to go into a 325 degree oven. The recipe itself says until they're slightly brown on the edges. That is a good way to think about it because you want to be able to check these. You definitely want to check these because, well, your oven is going to definitely cook different than my oven. My oven's going to cook differently than my neighbor's oven. So every oven's going to be different. It's just the way it is. Even, in the professional ranks, depending on what oven you wanted, some ovens are great at maintaining low temperatures. Some ovens are great at extreme heat. Depending on what we needed is what oven we used. So these are going to go in. I'll let you know about how much time it took. I'm estimating about 15 minutes. I'll be back when they're ready. Okay, so these guys took 20 minutes. And that old girl. Your times will probably vary. You want to get them so that they're just getting a little bit of brown on the edges, kind of like this. Now these things kind of turn out a nice crispness, but with just a little bit of chew to them, which is kind of surprising. Okay, so what you want to do is as soon as they come out of the oven, you want to pull the silicone mat off the sheet pan and right on a rack. Let them cool for about 10-15 minutes. Then take the cookies and peel them right off of the silicone mat. And then put those on the rack to cool completely. It'll take a few minutes, 20 minutes. It's worth the wait. So I'm Chef Terry, and this is a recipe from the Boston Cooking School Cookbook by Fannie Farmer, 1934 edition. Just because it has has a little dust on the cover doesn't mean it doesn't have value. There's some gems in these. Check it out in your local used bookstore. I'll see you next time.